like your role in Monsters and Men. It initially when I saw it, how your brain puts together pieces of what it believes the storyline is going to be. Um, but your character reacted in a realistic way, typical of his station. Even though he was an intelligent brother and a caring brother, what was it about that dynamic that you know made you want to bring something out of that character?
Um, it was a heck of an opportunity to learn and to experience what it's like for an African American police officer. There's like a whole bunch of information that I was unaware of. I did not know. I didn't know the other side. I've been on the other side of the resistance.
Yes.
I didn't know their side.
Yes.
And I felt very ignorant about that. Here are these people that look like us.
Yes.
That are protecting and serving, fighting for our freedoms, so we can just walk across the street and just live our lives. Our safety's in their hands. And there's a lot of brothers out there and sisters doing their job the right way, correctly, doing it for those reasons, to protect and serve and give back to their community. So that opportunity for me was grand and a great challenge. And so when you have good people like that that still take on this thankless job, and you have to have this sort of, you always have to be professional and keep your emotions in check. Eventually, the emotions got to go somewhere, and I think you saw that struggle with the character throughout.
Well, indeed, and I too, I understand the plight of an African American police officer, just African American. We're dealing with dualism from the womb. However, there is also something to be said to how the institutions that we see today, they were created in a certain spirit, and that spirit was for the upliftment and maintaining of white supremacy. When that comes into play, did any of that actually come into play? As far as when your character, it was revealed that your character, would act along I guess, a stereotypical line where you would expect an officer to act in that, instance. He would side, with the institution rather than fighting it. Was that part of the paradigm, or was it just the officer himself, realizing that, this is his life and this is his livelihood, and he doesn't want to speak against that?
I think it's a common. I don't know if it's just one thing. We speak the English language because we were taught it. We weren't. Our ancestors didn't necessarily speak it. They had to learn it through survival as well. So I played in the NFL. I played a game of football. There are rules to football. There are rules to the business of the NFL. I tried to use it to the best of my ability. I was able to use the NFL and the money to help support myself, to give me confidence, to be able to give back to others. But I had to follow the rules. I think Dennis, the character, there were certain rules that were made that were sort of created by certain institutions, certain organizations, right? But in the new day and the evolution of this country, he's believing within the system he can give us a hope, or carve out a lane for us to follow. I think he believes that if he does his job correctly within the neighborhood, he can inspire that young man that doesn't have a father figure or whatever. Instead of looking for the dope man, looking for the pimp, he can protect and serve the next generation, his family, his community. So I think that's what keeps him pushing through and sort of withstanding all this stuff that comes with it, the everyday, the everyday struggles of a black man, badge or no badge.
Indeed. Could you talk about the overall paradigm of how the catalyst of Black Death, basically the entire piece it's great acting all around. It's like an ensemble. It's very character driven and shot beautifully, pulling the viewer in. Could you talk about the paradigm of working within this particular framework to show the viewer how these actions of police brutality or disenfranchisement of Black bodies affects people who view it, and how they react?
I wasn't there on the days the other actors were shot or were working. So it was great to see when it all comes together, knowing the script, how Ray and they edited it together. So what I got out of that was a lot of information, and we should, I think, judge less, ask more questions.
No
We
doubt.
need to be more inclusive on both sides. I feel like these issues that are happening, and it's consistent as we see, but and it should be brought to light, or should be brought to our attention. All the stuff that people, the men and women that are not doing the job correctly, they should be brought to justice. I think it should be known that they're not doing their jobs right. At the same time, men like Dennis, men that I got to meet in the Brooklyn Team North, they are doing their job right. At least the men I got to meet, some of the women I got to meet, they are doing their job correctly. So that was inspirational to me going into the film as well. So knowing where I fit amongst wherever the storylines were and how they all connected, to bring as much honesty as I could, knowing that if I can inspire one person to see that maybe not all cops are bad, then I feel like I've done my job. Or at least, if not, or at least know what they have to go through, the kind of decisions they have to make. I mean, this film also it kind of specifically asks the question, what is the right thing to do? Is it family? Is it the community? You know what I mean? If you're doing something for the community, if you're protecting and serving these strangers, these civilians, how does that affect your family? You know what I mean? So now you got to decide, is one more righteous than the other?
No doubt.
So that was a very intriguing sort of question that I felt like I was dealing with more and more as the shoot was going on, and I just looking at it too, I'm like, I look stressed out, beat up, a lot of little makeup, it was, and I think it worked, so that's the stuff that Dennis was going through.
No doubt. Now, your growth as an actor, from Ballers all the way up through to Monsters and Men, your current work, it seems like you get exponentially better each and every time out. Could you talk, have you been able to see your transition from a novice to a professional expert actor, within such a small paradigm? I mean, to the eye, it seems that way to me.
I still feel novice level. I got so much to learn, but also what I'm seeing is the team, who I'm getting to work with. I think that David, Larry, Spike Lee, Ronaldo, Marcus Green, for sure. I've never had that much trust before.
Indeed.
So this kind of trust from your leader gives you wider range to explore. If you feel like you're not in a box, you feel like you can fall forward, feeling like it's more inclusive, that you actually heard that this is collaboration and collaborative environments that I was privy to. With these last 3 projects, I've never had before. Never had that kind of freedom. And I think that's reflected in the work, the comfortability I feel that you're talking about, this sort of maturity. I think it's just, which to me reads as I'm comfortable and I got the trust from the people I'm working with.
No doubt. In closing, is there anything I may have neglected to ask you about Monsters and Men, or any of your upcoming works that you'd like for my readership to know? This
seems to be a common theme right now between Klansmen and this about being a cop. But I think that's a good thing. I feel that just because a brother like that looks like me is wearing a uniform, a badge, doesn't mean he's not for the cause, not for our people, not for the community. I think I said it before, we need to ask more questions and do less judging. We need more information so then we can discern for ourselves, case by case basis. I would like for more of us to go on ride-alongs, and I would like more officers to go on civilian neighborhood ride-alongs. Just because a man talks like this, uses his hands to express it, doesn't mean he's hostile. It just means he's passionate. So there's a body language, there's a certain way of living and
cultural norms.
And understanding. And that could happen through communication and example. This film is one of those examples.
Indeed. Oh man, thanks a lot.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. Oh, can I get a picture with